Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 54 units of real estate. So today I want to talk about refinancing my primary residence loan, my primary mortgage, into a 20-year term. So I kind of came across this concept recently, but if you were to do a 20-year term, it's typically going to be a lower interest rate compared to a 30-year fixed. And this is 20-year fixed as well. So what I'm hoping to do for some math here is, right now my loan is $850K. I'm at 6.5% interest, and this was a lender through Lennar. So Lennar financed the loan initially, and then they sold the loan to Freedom Mortgage. So I have a 6.5% interest rate, 30-year fixed, 30-year AM, the 30-year term. And my monthly mortgage is around $5,500 a month. And this is including PMI because I only put 5% down. So my monthly cost is $5,500 a month. And at that $5,500 a month, about $700, $800 goes to principal pay down. The rest goes to interest. So let's just make it $700 for easy math. Now, if I were to refinance this into a 20-year term, and interest rates dropped a bit today, I was kind of quoted between 5.25 to 5.375% on a 20-year term with no points or fees, and the closing cost is roughly going to be about $3,800. This is through Charles Schwab because I own assets through Charles Schwab, and Charles Schwab partners with Rocket Mortgage to give you that discount. So because you're affiliated with Charles Schwab, they don't charge an origination fee or points, and they give you a discount on the interest rate. So at first I was just quoted 5.25%, 20-year term, and I have to put an additional probably $25,000 into the deal to lower my loan amount from $850 to $825. But the amount of monthly payment is $6,000 a month. So I'm going from $5,500 a month for the mortgage to $6,000 a month. And I'm increasing my term from 30 years to 20 years. Decreasing my term from 30 years to 20 years. And I'm decreasing my interest rate from 6.5% to call it 6.25%. So overall, my payment goes up by $500 a month. But if you look at the principal pay down, it's roughly at that $6,000 a month. $2,000 goes to principal pay down, $4,000 goes to interest. So this is where it gets kind of lucrative. So as you can see, with my current loan, I'm paying $5,500, $700 goes to principal, the rest goes to interest. If I were to refinance this into a 20-year term and lower my interest rate slightly to 5.25%, down from 6.5%, my cost goes up by $500 from $5,500 to $6,000, but my principal pay down is going to go up to $2,000. So remember, it was $700 with my current loan, now increases to $2,000. So at the cost of $500 extra. So that's not bad, right? So I'm paying $500, I'm putting extra $500 in there, so that's all in for $1,200, but I'm getting an additional $800 per month in principal pay down. So over the life of that 20-year AM loan, I'm paying about $500,000 in interest, which is pretty significant, right? I mean, it's doing a cost savings. I didn't calculate the cost savings of how much interest I would pay over 30 years versus 20 years, but you're shaving off 10 years of your loan and you're increasing your principal pay down. So every year I'm paying down $2,000 a month, times that by 12, that's roughly $25K a year, versus right now I'm doing $700 a month in principal pay down, which is like $8,000 a year. So, it's not a bad option that we're considering, but interest rates are a little variable right now. So he kind of quoted me, 5.25%. Today increased to 5.375%. So, I'll see what that number is. But conceptually, if we just pay $500 more, it's going to accelerate our principal pay down significantly because we're doing it on a 20-year term. So it's not too bad. I think going from a 50 or 30 year to 15 year, it's too much of a drastic change. And because it's a 20-year loan, the interest rate's gonna be lower. So I actually found this strategy through a video on YouTube, and then I found this 20-year term option on Reddit about people doing a 20-year term refinance. And if you lower your rate, like I said, from 6.5 to 5.25, and you increase your term from 30-year to 20-year, or sorry, decrease your term, obviously decreasing interest rate will lower your rate, your monthly payment, and then increasing your term will increase your monthly payment. But overall net, hopefully it doesn't increase it that much. So it's increasing by 500, which we could afford to do. And it'll massively accelerate our principal pay down doing this strategy. And if you look at the amortization schedule, how much interest you pay per year versus principal pay down per year, after around year 10, that's when it starts to become like 50-50. So half your money, so if you pay $6,000, $3,000 goes to principal pay down, $3,000 goes to interest. If I were to like sell one of my properties and take the money to dump, like lump sum dump into my home, so let's just say my loan is $825, maybe after, let's just call it 5 years, I'm down to like $600. If I were to drop $300,000 into as a lump sum payment and go from $600 down to $300, at that point on the amortization schedule, it might accelerate me to like year like 15 or something, or 16, 17. Then at that point, it's like mostly principal payment and then very little interest payment. So at that point, I can take my money that I was gonna use to pay off my mortgage to then invest it, if I want to, right? Into like an index fund, into like a T-bill, which pays like 4%. And then basically whenever I want to not work anymore, I just can take that money and just pay off the loan. So now I'm alleviated of a $6,000 per month mortgage payment and still pay $2,000 a month for, property tax, insurance, HOA, utilities. So my all-in cost will be $8,000 up from $7,500. So this quite aligns with us because we are thinking of making an extra $1,000 principal payment per month. So we'd go from $6,500 from $5,500 mortgage to $6,500 a month, and that's going to be an additional $1,000 per month of principal payment. So it's actually not bad that if we were to refinance this into a lower rate, decrease the term to 20 years, payment goes up by $500. Our payment's now $6,000 from $55,000. We have $2,000 a month in principal payment. But if we were to make an additional $500 because we're still both working, at that point, it'd be $6,500 all in with additional principal payment. So, Christine and I, we're making a lot of like money moves right now and trying to pivot how we want to do our portfolio. Right now we have a lot of big levers that we're pulling right now. So the main lever, and we're trying to figure out what sequence to do it in that makes sense for us. So now that I know I have to put $25,000 into this loan in order to refinance it to a 20-year term at a 5.375% interest rate, like A, do we want to lock that in, or B, do we want to wait and see how interest rates go? Hopefully interest rates go down, and then at that point we can just monitor it and lock it in once it's lower. So I can tell the loan officer through Charles Schwab to say, hey, the moment it's 5%, let me know, we'll refinance. But the fees are not bad. Like I was afraid I was going to have to pay like a 1% origination fee or underwriting fee, something like that. And my loan amount is $850K, so I'm have to put $8,500, and that's a lot of money. That's almost like $11,000, $12,000 to refinance a loan. But if it's only like $3,800, and of course you have to, put some money to get the escrow account ready for property tax as well as for insurance. But when we close Freedom Mortgage, we're gonna get reimbursed that money anyway. So it's kind of a wash. The only true cost is that $3,800 that we pay to refinance it and all the closing fees. So it's not too terrible. So levers that we want to pull is we want to refinance our primary mortgage into a 20-year term and hopefully around a 5% interest rate, so that we can accelerate principal pay down, $2,000 versus $700 per month in principal pay down at the cost of $500 extra. So that's not bad. And right now we're both working W-2, high income W-2s, taking home $400K plus between the both of us. And because we're working, like we can aggressively, pay down principal payment if that's a route we want to go down. So we definitely want to refinance our primary. Another move that we're going to do is we want to build 2 ADUs on our property in Orange County. So, we're trying to get cost, but we're getting quoted roughly about $250 per square foot for the detached ADU. So if it's 1,000 square foot, that's going to be around $250K for construction. And then to convert the garage, I've been getting quoted around $75 up to $100,000 to convert the garage into a 400 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bath unit. And as I alluded to, I can rent the 1 bedroom for $2,500. The 3 bedroom is $3,700. So that's all in for $6,200. But if you look at the cost, so $2,500 plus or $250K for the back house, and let's just make it $75,000 or $80,000 for the garage conversion for the junior ADU. That's going to be about $330,000. But there's so many city fees associated with it. You have to pay the city permit fees, the school fees, impact fees, which might end up being $20,000. You have to pay all these soil tests, grade planning, trenching. That's additional cost is not included. You have to pay for, what else? Solar panels, that's a requirement. So that's gonna be around $10,000, but I will get 30% back as a tax credit. So it might end up being $7,000. You have to buy appliances. The minimum is gonna be a stove and a dishwasher, which might be $1,000. And then at that point, the fridge and the washer and dryer, it's optional. Some tenants are okay with bringing their own. Some prefer to have it there. Just really depends. For the main house, the tenant brought their own fridge and they bought their own washer and dryer. And why I like that, if I'm being honest, is because if you bring your own fridge, if you bring your own washer and dryer, you're committed to staying there long term. Just as a little side hack. So I don't mind dropping the rents a little bit if they bring their own fridge and their washer, because they're stuck there, right? The washer and dryer are with them, so they're there in the long term. So we're still debating that, but if we were to buy a washer set, it's probably going to be around $1,200, and then obviously the fridge is probably $600-$700, and I'd probably order all that through Costco direct, because sometimes with Costco direct you get $100 per item. So obviously if you're buying two washers, 2 dryers, 2 refrigerators, 2 stoves, 2 dishwashers, might save you $100 each item, which could be pretty significant. And Costco does delivery, installation, and provides a warranty. So that's not bad. But sometimes Costco has higher end appliances, and sometimes you don't need it that fancy for the unit. But who knows, the rent is higher, so maybe it is worth it to get a nicer unit or appliances. We also do landscaping. I don't think there's gonna be that much landscaping because the ADU takes up most of the backyard, but you have to build a little walkway, maybe some fake grass, pour some concrete if you want to give them a little side yard. You then might have to pay for a fence if you want to give them a little fence. So all these little things. And I kind of added up all those extra fees. So worst case scenario, so once you submit the permits to the city, you'll know exactly how much everything costs. But what's nice about one of our contractors, they laid out all those fees roughly, and we kind of added it all up. So worst case scenario, we got hit with every single fee, it'd be roughly around $80,000 to $90,000. So let's just take $90,000 as worst case scenario. So my construction cost is $330 plus $90,000 for all those other fees. So I'm all in for $420, and for 1,400 square foot, that's around $300 per square foot. So we'll see. I mean, maybe we'll drop the price of the back unit from 1,000 square foot to 900. But when they gave me the quote, the price difference between a 900 square foot detached versus 1,000 square foot detached was only I think $13,000, which is worth it for me. I don't know if they did that intentionally to push me to building the bigger one, because their cost isn't that much more to add more square footage to a bedroom or a living room. It's just if you're charging $1 for medium or small fries, $3 for medium fries, and $3.25 for large fries, of course you're gonna buy the large fries. So I don't know if they did that on purpose, where the price difference between a 750 square foot to a 900 square foot was call it $22,000. And then the price difference from 900 to 1,000 is like the difference of 10,000. And then obviously a 3-bedroom, 2-bath that's 1,000 square foot feels a lot more spacious versus a 900 versus 750. So that's why I'm leaning towards 1,000. And keep in mind, one quote I got was around 330 all in. The person that I would like to use, they quoted me around 360, and they have more overhead costs, so I'm gonna probably negotiate with them. But Christine and I need to see how we want to pivot, because we're doing a lot of things right now. So obviously, like, we just bought a property in Athens, and I'm in the process of doing a cash out refinance on that one. It's rented out already, and then we're gonna pull money out of that deal to then pay for the next deal that we bought in the same community. So hoping to pull this money out by the end of October, and then the next deal we're gonna close mid to end of November. So I'm gonna pull that money out and then dump that money in there. And then the money is gonna stay in there for probably a couple months. And then at that point, we need to start saving up some money between our W-2 jobs, because once we pull out money out of that second property, I think out of that, we started with 260, but every time we pull money out of the deal, so the first year we're gonna lose $20,000 because we have to leave it in the deal. And the next deal we'll probably leave another $20,000. So that's probably gonna be roughly, let's say best case scenario, $220,000 that we come out with, and it's gonna cost $420 to build this ADU, so that's another $200,000. So obviously I can fund it using my line of credit at 8% interest, but it's variable. And I think that cost would be roughly close to $2,000 a month. And obviously if I rent it out, both units, it's gonna be $6,200 a month. So that cash flow can be used to cover that property. But obviously my wife's feeling a little tight and stressed from that. So, when you submit the permits, like the first 6 months, you're just waiting for the city to approve the plans. So there's not much cost that we're paying, it's just time. So the only cost is we might pay like maybe $15,000, $20,000 to get the permitting process started. And then that's gonna be 6 months. So in that 6-month period, like, we're just gonna be saving money. Like, maybe I have to stop doing 401k for a little bit. Maybe I have to stop max funding my life insurance for a little bit. Maybe we have to cut down our expenses for a little bit. Maybe we have to rent out a room in our primary residence for $1,500 a month to get some additional income temporarily. So we're trying to think of the moves that we're wanting to make in order to like save up more money. And that's probably gonna be it. So it's fine. I might have to temporarily stop 401k, which is fine. My max funding my life insurance, which is fine. And maybe we rent out a room because we have a 3-bedroom house. We only use like one master. We just prefer our privacy. But if we have to rent it out, maybe we can find somebody who's rarely home and isn't there on the weekends. So like I said, we'll see how we do it. And then pivot from there. So, because obviously we rent here for $1,500 a month, that's roughly $3,000 every 2 months. So it's about $18,000 that we're gonna get, that we can allocate towards, paying down this ADU if we wanna go down that route, right? Or we can start picking up extra shifts. Christine might pick up some overtime, and then I will do other, continue my side hustle route. So maybe in that 12-month period, maybe we can save up $100,000 between the two of us, and then our line of credit's only $100,000. At that point, our payment's gonna be like, I don't know, less than $1,000, and our rental income is $6,200, and you said it's $5,000 in monthly cash flow, assuming it's rented out, and then you just make extra principal payments. So that's gonna be $6,000 a year. It'll be done in a year and a half. But obviously, we have to think about that, right? Another wrinkle in the equation is that I'm approaching some people to buy my 20 unit. I have like 2 investors who are interested. So let's see, either they can, with apartments, you don't know how long it takes to sell. It could take like a year, or you can get an offer. I can get an offer in as fast as like a month or 2, right? And it's gonna take about 90 days at least to close on the deal. So from there, it's really like, I'm probably gonna 1031 exchange it, but I don't mind like paying some taxes. Like, so when you 1031 exchange, let's say I sell it for $1 million, and let's say I only buy $500,000 of real estate, and then at that point, I just would pay the capital gains tax on whatever is the difference. So that might be another $500,000 that I'd pay the capital gains on. So, not sure how that would work, but I would talk to the intermediary that I would use for the 1031 exchange to say, hey, like, whatever, let's say I have $400,000 of of loans. I sell for $1 million. That's $600,000 of equity that I have. And then if I were to 1031 exchange that into buying, let's just call it 2 single family homes cash in Huntsville, Alabama. So that would be about $500,000 in purchase price. And then I would basically, my purchase price is only $500,000, so I probably have to pay the difference between $1 million to $500,000, which is $500,000 in capital gains tax and depreciation recapture, some type of prorated formulation. But I would ask them like, hey, I can buy those 2 cash, pay the taxes on the rest, and whatever money I have left over, I can use that money just to dump at my ADUs. So that's an option as well. Like, I don't mind doing that. Like I said, like, I just don't want to pay the full tax bill, but if we 1030 exchange and buy 2 cash, I'm taking some debt off the table, and it's okay for me to pay some tax. I just don't want to pay the full bill. So that could be an option as well. Or I just can, if I can't find a good deal, I just can pay all the taxes and then use that money. Now for sure my ADU will be paid off. So that's another move that's in the background as well. And I think that's really it. So like it's quite busy between the two of us. Like that's why I'm like trying to like take it easier. Like I'm not probably gonna buy any more real estate. I just really want to optimize these 3 factors in my life right now. And see how we want to pivot. So right now we're leaning towards doing that cash out or the refinance on our primary first to a 20-year term, but we might have to wait a little bit for interest rates to drop down. I just got quoted 5.375 today. So I'll see what the monthly cost is, but maybe I'll see to wait. If it gets closer to 5, I'll say, hey, I'll lock it in. So I'm probably gonna do that first, and then selling the 20 unit, I have no idea. The time window is literally, I can get an offer like next week to like, it might take me a year, but I'm in no rush either way, but it's such a variable time window. And then for the ADU, I think we're just still getting a lot of quotes. And then we're gonna negotiate with some of the builders to see how much they can drop us down, because we don't want to, ideally we just want to be all in for 400. Like at first, like I'll be honest, our sweet spot is like around $300,000 all in, and the backyard ADU is roughly around, let's say 250, and then another 50 for your miscellaneous expenses. Like that's very comfortable for us. But like, it's like if you're doing construction, you might as well just build a junior ADU as well. It's gonna cost another $100,000, but you're getting $2,500 a month in rent. So like, why not? It's a good return on investment, right? For $100,000, you're getting $2,500 a month. Times that by 12, and what's that? It's $5,000 for 2 months. Times 6, that's $30,000 for a $100,000 investment. So it's gonna make us feel a little stretched and tight. But like I said, we just have to like not invest for a little bit and then be okay with that, and that's fine. Like if I'm being honest, that's totally fine for me. And continue to live our frugal, humble lifestyle, right? Because it's a 10-year grind, it's a 10-year journey. So, but once they're paid off, like we're good. And like I told Christine, I'm like, it's not gonna take us more than 2 years to pay off that line of credit, and we'll save the monny. But like I said, I think that's just stressful. We want to take it one at a time. So for sure, refinance first up once interest rates are 5, and then whenever we decide to get the ball rolling for the ADUs, it's gonna take at least 6 months from when we had signed the contract to when you start breaking ground. So that'll give us time to like get our plan in place, and then obviously doing the doing the 20 unit. Sorry, my wife called me, so I got distracted. Doing the 20 unit, selling it, I don't know, but maybe I'll get more clarity in a few more months, right? Or in a few weeks, because people just, when you go off market deals, you get a first stab at it and you don't move fast, it goes on the MLS. But like you said, it might take forever to sell. But it's literally no rush for me. No rush for me. Let me see. So yeah, those are the kind of the moves that we're gonna make, and I think these moves are needed in order to be as financially free, in order for us to leave our jobs. And like I said, the last move out of all this is probably gonna have to sell one of my single family homes with high equity, probably the first home I bought, and then use that, pay taxes, pay Uncle Sam, and then use that money to pay off this primary residence whenever we're ready to not work anymore. So that's probably gonna be the last move that we're gonna make. So sorry, went all over the place, but move number 1, refinance a 20-year term, hopefully 5%. Move number 2 is building 2 ADUs, and then pay off that line of credit. Move number 3 is gonna be doing a 1031 exchange on my 20 unit, and then maybe paying some taxes, or all the taxes, or no taxes, depending on what I buy. And then move number 4 is I probably have to sell one of my first single family homes, then pay off my primary residence if we want to retire. So, that's kind of the grind, that's kind of the journey, right? For real estate. So anyways, just wanted to give you an update as to what we're thinking, what our plans are. Hopefully this new mic sounds better. Let me know if it does. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what questions you have. If you want to join my school community on a free trial, you want a daily landlord insurance quote for free, you want coaching, you want mentorship, click on my link tree down below. If you want to send me an email, link tree as well. Otherwise, hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.